from Nation's Restaurant News. I think it's funny. I've never, ever quoted Nation's Restaurant News. I didn't even know it was a thing. But folks, I'm a man of the people, by the people, for the people. I got to bring you the information that you need. And here we go. And boy, does it just collide so beautifully with my good friends at Chick-fil-A. Here's the story. A Chick-fil-A operator in Miami recently got 429 applications for a job within a week of posting. What? Why? Well, the job posted a 3-day work week. Justin Lindsay started a 3-day work week in February of 2022, and he got some big-time skepticism among restaurant leaders. You bet he did. Why? Because he dared to do something different. Can I just tell you, if you have an idea that you believe should be tested, but the overwhelming majority of people in your world think it's absolutely crazy, I think you actually ought to try it. It's probably a good sign. Now, I also got to point out, there's a good chance you might be crazy. You might be certifiably nuts. But there's a strong chance that if everybody in the industry thinks it's a crazy idea, it's probably a really good freaking idea. You know why? Because most people don't think outside the box. They like the box. The box is nice, especially when it's got chicken nuggets inside of it. So all these Chick-fil-A people, I'm sure, are like, oh, this is a crazy idea. Well, what does Justin do? He says, we're going to do it. Direct quote. He said a lot of it was kind of shock and awe and then questioning. That was the initial phase. We had to get past the thought of people wondering, okay, first off, how long is this really going to last? So you see the skeptics, the critics. All 18 managers at this location. So this is the Chick-fil-A operator, Justin Lindsay, making this decision. By the way, Alex, I want to get Justin on the show. I just decided. I want to talk to him. All 18 of his managers had to be on board. So this is good leadership. I want to point this out. The article doesn't cover this particular thing. It just gives the quote. But this is great leadership. He has an idea. He believes it's right. But instead of just saying, this is what we're going to do, and because I want to do it, he gets them on board. He sells the idea. He gets them all on board. And then he divided all of them into 2 pods. All of the employees at this location into 2 pods. Okay? And the pods essentially work 3 days of 13 to 14-hour shifts, and then they have 4 days off with one 7-day stretch per month where they are off consecutively. He described his motivation behind the idea as this. He said everybody was coming in to open the restaurant at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting everything ready. Then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they leave. And they're getting ready to step out for another leader or another team member to come in. And we just wonder why it wasn't consistent. It's just a constant revolving door throughout the day. The 13 to 14-hour, 3 days a week strategy came about from the idea that it takes time for a team to click. And then the pod idea came about. And the teams began working together in these pods every day for days on end, and they became a family unit. Unbeknownst to him, his general manager at the location became the referee of an employee-organized kickball game. By the way, leaders, just a little commercial. If you want to create community, organize a kickball game for your team. That's fun. Anybody can play kickball. Even the worst athlete can play kickball, and they might miss the ball, and that's a good laugh. Anyway, so then they're organizing these kickball games at the park, getting the food on their own. What's happening? I'm going to tell you what's happening. Culture, community, cohesion. That's what's happening. And so he said when he heard about this, he said, okay, I think we're doing something right here. Because in all my years, we've never been able to pull together the entire group of people to do something like that without basically pulling teeth and sending mass emails and all this stuff. And then what about retention? What did it do for engagement in that Chick-fil-A store? 100%. The only people in his franchise area that have left have been let go because they weren't a fit. No one has left on their own. It's important to point out that this is in the middle of what we are still in called the Great Resignation, where we have record numbers of people quitting their jobs every month. Not to mention that the data would tell you that Chick-fil-A has a higher proportion of young people working for them, and they're not leaving, and they're working 3 days, 13 to 14-hour shifts. And they're in pods. In other words, they've created a true team. Hey, your shift, you're working 3 days and 13 to 14-hour shifts, and they're working the same amount of hours, they're crushing it, and they've got unbelievable continuity. And this is the final quote that I'll mention from this story. This is, again, from the operator. A lot of people do have a passion to work in the industry, but still want to have their time. They value their time, their family. They value school, whatever it is. And this schedule gives them that opportunity. And it takes out the guesswork. You know what times you work, you know what days you work, and you can look out in December right now and see these are the 3 days of the week that I work in December. I got to tell you, I applaud Justin Lindsay. And Alex, I really do want to invite him on the show because I would like to do a little bit more detailed breakdown into what he's doing. And they're still working. They're still working. But remember, I told you this idea, this myth of an 8-hour workday? Nobody does that anyway. Even if you have an 8-hour shift, you ain't working 8 hours. If I take your Facebook time, your lunch time, puttering around the office, when did we decide that a 40-hour work week and an 8-hour workday is the only way to be successful? Go look it up yourself. Very interesting. The world of work is changing. All right, now I got to cover this really quick. This article from WIOnews.com. I don't even know what that is, but I got to give them credit. According to a lead researcher, Juliet Shore, a sociologist and an economist at Boston College, who is monitoring over 180 organizations globally as they switch to truncated schedules through a 6-month pilot program. I've been talking about this a lot on the show. 6-month pilot program in Europe to a 4-day work week. Okay? So, and they're doing 32 hours, by the way. So it's not 4 days, 40 hours. It's 4 days, 32 hours. What they found is workers who shifted to that schedule logged 7.5 hours per night of sleep. A full hour more than when they were working 5 days a week, 40 hours. Now, that's very interesting because of all of the studies and everything out there, and you don't even have to look at a study to know that more sleep, better sleep, is good for you physically, it is better for you mentally, and it is better for you emotionally. Very interesting. She goes on to say, Shore, who led the study, she said, I wasn't surprised that people are getting more sleep, but I was surprised at how robust the changes were. On a 4-day work week, the proportion of participants who reported being sleep deprived, defined as less than having 7 hours, declined from 42% to just 14.5%. Really interesting stuff. I'm telling you, folks, this is coming your way, leaders. You better be ready for it.